Hi, I'm Steve Garrett, and I want to tell you about a leadership lab involving ethical decisions. There are three stories presented with ethical choices. Each story involves two advocates, one for good and one not so much for good. The staffing for this is three Rotarians. One is the moderator who tells the stories, and the others are two are the advocates, Advocate A and Advocate B. The materials required are a script which is a part of the white paper, which is available at www.ryla.stevegarrett.com. The timing for this lab is about an hour, and you can probably do it a little faster, and maybe you just use one or two of the stories, but you certainly could string it out a little bit longer with discussions. The first scenario involves a story of students cheating on a test, and college students, to be specific. And um, one of them finds a test, and the question is, should they turn the test in, or should that student turn the test into the professor and say, "Look, I found this," and or utilize the test to improve their situation. And the scenario unwraps, and the advocates make their arguments, and it turns out to be that, well, it's not just a college; it's West Point, and the students are actually sort of required to live by the honor code. And not only are they required to live by the honor code, but you never can tell after graduation, they might be leading people in battle next to each other and be dependent upon the fact that they trust the other one. The second story is also about college, but it's about a college football coach who's about ready to play the big game. And he finds that three of his best players missed curfew. And being a disciplinarian, ordinarily he wouldn't let them play in the big game. But it is the big game, national championship. And NFL careers are involved, and alumni is involved. And he has always wanted to be the head coach at another university, one called Notre Dame. So what is he going to do? And Advocate A and Advocate B argue it as the information is divulged. And it turns out to be that he doesn't play them. And his Arkansas Razorbacks beats Oklahoma 31-6. But I guess the best part of the story is that Lou Holtz went on to be offered the job as the head coach at Notre Dame, and the president of Notre Dame University said that his decision to offer that job to Lou Holtz was made when he didn't play those players. The third story concerns a company that was selling pots and pans, and they weren't doing very well selling pots and pans, and they had a pretty liberal view of truth in their advertising to get the pots and pans sold. And so the new president of the company, who realized that things were bad because he had to use his own money to make payroll, decided to try a radical approach. And he was going to use truthfulness as the competitive advantage that was going to turn the company around. Well, not everybody in the company agreed with him, but this was a good idea. And Advocate A and Advocate B provide their arguments about why that was not a good idea to try to do. Of course, we all know the story. It's a true story. It's a story of Herb Taylor and the aluminum products company back in the Depression, and it's the story of the four-way test, and it's a story about a company that was turned around and successful and paid off all their debts. And Herb Taylor did become president of Rotary International, and Herb Taylor did give the four-way test to Rotary as a part of that. And as always, it's the debriefing question is where the learning takes place. It's when the Rotarians who are acting as facilitators sit down and talk with the student participants about what they learned and how they came out of it. Resources? Yes, there are some resources available. The Cadet Honor Code, Lou Holtz, four-way test, all available on Wikipedia. help your Rotarians prepare to be the facilitators for this Leadership Lab. I'm Steve Garrett. Thank you for listening.